Hey everybody, Kyle, Super Serious Reviews here today to make a kind of an alert for you people working on Kymcos out there. Now this only is for the Agility 54-stroke. Now watching this, you'll recognize the engine. So if you got this scooter, you're going to want to know this before you build. So here's mine. Now my scooter has a Tao 63cc cylinder out of an old scooter I had, its engine. This one had a 63cc cylinder from the factory with a 44mm piston. And I just thought, this thing's got a lot of miles on it. I didn't want to throw a huge bore kit on it, so where I would have to do a lot to it to keep it running. I just wanted to get a little power boost out of it. So I went ahead and used that cylinder, bought a $24 piston and rings off eBay. And it's worked so far, but there were some things that you should probably be aware of before boring one of these out. Now the first thing would be that the carburetor has a different thing that the jet screws into. Like, you'll notice your jet screws into a little piece that screws into the carburetor. Now that piece on the Kymco is much longer than the one on the Chinese scooter. I thought it wouldn't matter, so I threw an 85 main in a Chinese one and screwed it in. It didn't work. So I give it gas and it would just die. So I decided I'd just leave it at the 82 it came with, which is more than an average scooter would have with the piston, and it doesn't seem to be running lean at all, so I just left that. But if you're going to throw a big kit on this, you're going to want a carburetor, a newer one, just because Kymco's a little different. Also, when taking the cylinder head and cylinder out, you're going to want to leave it on its center stand and take this out, this bolt there, just so you can drop the engine, because the way it's made, the cylinder and head will hit this. And also, once you get your cylinder in there, you're likely not using another Kymco cylinder. If you're like me and you want to save money, you'll use Chinese parts, which don't last as long, but what's putting another one on? It takes like an hour. So anyway, the key thing that I realized yesterday that was different, or today that was different, was the thing under this, the timing chain tensioner was different. Now I realized that because my scooter was making some loud rattling when I was driving it, like give it gas, it would rattle in the engine. I was assuming it was the valves, because when I set the valves when I built this thing, I was kind of in a hurry, and I didn't have my feeler gauge with me, so I just set them by feel, and I thought, oh, I just probably set them way too wide, and that's why it's clicking so bad. But I got in there and the timing chain was loose on the cam. So the tensioner isn't long enough. The end on the tensioner is not as long for some reason. I don't know what that is, but it's not as long. So I just ended up using the tensioner off a Chinese scooter, and that was longer. So if you're going to be building one of these with a Chinese type piston or a Chinese cylinder, I'd assume if you use your own Kymco cylinder it wouldn't matter. But if you're going to be using the Chinese cylinder, I definitely recommend you use a Chinese tensioner. But the Kymco also takes a different CDI than your average Chinese scooter, because it runs on DC current, not AC. But that didn't really faze me, but I just wanted to include that. If that scared you away from buying a Kymco, let me scare you back into it. What's awesome about this Kymco is that it takes Chinese parts from there, but it's actually built better than your Chinese scooter. You can tell Kymco really wanted it to be better. They put bigger 10mm heads on these valve cover bolts. You can still use your 8mm from Chinese if you lose one. CVT bolts are better quality, 10mm as well. It just seems to be made better. I heard the casing is better, it's made better. I'm sure the crankshaft might be better, I don't know. But all I know is this scooter survived 9,700 kilometers. Well, 8,000 before I got it. Completely under-maintained. And all it needed when I got it was a valve adjustment. So if you can find one of these Kymco Agilities cheap, I would totally recommend them. They got cool wheels that are durable, they're definitely worth it.